Hello and welcome to our Midday Report here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk is in the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv. He already met with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. And for more on that, let's now go straight live to our correspondent who is in Kyiv on the ground, Oz Chatterjee. Hi, Oz. So what can you tell us about the latest situation between Donald Tusk and Volodymyr Zelenskyy?
Well, those talks have now concluded at the presidential palace. Donald Tusk arrived in the Ukrainian capital early in the morning, visited the memorial wall in Mikhailovska Square with President Zelenskyy, both of them laying wreaths for the soldiers who have fallen in Ukraine's defense. And then they proceeded to head to the presidential palace for talks. Now, in the press conference that has just concluded at the palace, President Zelenskyy and Prime Minister Tusk discussed the topics that were on the agenda, including such things as defense co-production. But the big topic, of course, high on the agenda was these negotiations that are ongoing still in the United Arab Emirates, these trilateral talks between the United States, Russia and Ukraine. President Zelenskyy said he informed Prime Minister Tusk of the developments of that. President Zelenskyy said the situation was not easy, but that Ukraine was trying to be as constructive as possible in these talks, and reiterated again the big topic from Ukraine, coming from the Ukrainian side, is that they want security guarantees, concrete security guarantees, to prevent Russia from invading again. Another line from that press conference is Zelenskyy said that Russia must not be rewarded for its act of aggression. So we can read between the lines to understand what Zelenskyy is saying here. He's not been shy about talking about Ukraine's unwillingness to cede Donetsk and Luhansk to the Russians. Those are the prime Russian demands for any kind of deal. So the negotiations are ongoing in that trilateral format in the UAE. And President Zelenskyy is still having those discussions with his European partners about it. But the Ukrainians are still maintaining their position, holding firm on that position that they don't want to withdraw from those territories. And they want US security guarantees in exchange for any kind of deal with the Russians. So much more to come on the agenda. No sign that the Ukrainians are heading towards signing anything yet, though. So a lot more still to come with regards to negotiations. We expect there to be further talks in the coming days as well. Back to you.
Oz, definitely Premier Donald Tusk is showing Poland's support to President Zelenskyy. Thanks so much for your report. The New START treaty between the United States and Russia, which limited the size of the two countries' nuclear arsenals, expired late on Wednesday. Moscow and Washington control more than 80% of the world's nuclear warheads and are now unbound by any limits regarding their arsenal's further development.
Applause as the then US President Barack Obama and his Russian counterpart Dmitry Medvedev in 2010 inked a deal capping the country's nuclear arsenals. But that deal officially expired on Thursday, sparking fears of an arms race.
For the first time in more than half a century, we face a world without any binding limits on the strategic nuclear arsenals of the Russian Federation and the United States of America.
In 1991, George H.W. Bush and Mikhail Gorbachev signed the original Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, known as START. The New START deal of 2010 limited the number of deployed strategic warheads to 1,550 on both sides, a reduction of nearly 30% on the previous agreement. This was extended for 5 years in 2021. Norway's Prime Minister has warned that the expiry of New START marks a dangerous turning point for global security.
Many of the achievements we made in the last 20 years on this disarmament, they were not many. But the ones we made, they are now standing a very hard time because of the international climate.
Russia-US relations collapsed in the wake of Moscow's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, to the point where talks to negotiate a new treaty were never even scheduled.
This may mean a new nuclear arms race, maybe this time more between the US and China in the long run. But Russia is still modernizing its nuclear forces, and so it will be part of that game. I think it all makes defense budgets grow, and it makes the world less secure.
US President Donald Trump has not responded to proposals by Vladimir Putin to roll over the deal for another year. Trump has said he'd like China to take part in arms control talks, a move rejected by Beijing, which says it would not get involved at the moment.
The European Union's top court has ruled that the process used to lift Carles Puigdemont's parliamentary immunity was not impartial, ordering that his immunity be reinstated. Judges found a conflict of interest involving a Bulgarian MEP overseeing the procedure due to political links with parties strongly opposed to the Catalan leader. And while Spain continues to seek his extradition, the ruling marks a significant legal victory for Puigdemont in Brussels. Our EU correspondent Alex Cadier has more.
Well, the European Union's top court deciding that the way in which Carles Puigdemont's parliamentary immunity was lifted was not impartial, and therefore his immunity has to be reinstated. The reason given by the EU's top court is that the Bulgarian MEP in charge of overseeing the process of lifting that immunity is part of the ECR, the European Conservative and Reformist political group in the European Parliament, which includes Vox, which vehemently opposes the Catalan separatist leader and has called for criminal charges against him. Therefore, the Bulgarian MEP, because of his links to Vox, cannot be impartial in treating that lifting of immunity. Now, Spain will continue to pursue his extradition. Carles Puigdemont, the Catalan separatist, here in Belgium, accused in Spain of misappropriating public funds and of staging an illegal referendum back in 2017. A number of court cases still pending in Spain, but at least on this one for parliamentary immunity, Carles Puigdemont will see his immunity reinstated, but those legal troubles rumble on. In Brussels, I'm Alex Cadier for TVP World.
5 men have been arrested by Polish authorities in connection with recent incidents of smuggling cigarettes from Belarus into Poland using balloons. The men face multiple charges and could be handed sentences of up to 12 years in prison.
Polish border guards arrested 5 men aged 20 to 35. The men were indicted on charges of involvement with an organized criminal group looking to commit tax fraud by smuggling cigarettes into Poland over the eastern border, that is from Belarus. The suspects were also charged with violating aviation law by launching unauthorized flights from Belarus into Poland. On February 4, 2026, the Siedlce District Court, considering prosecutor petitions, decided to place all 5 suspects in pretrial detention for a period of 3 months. The charges presented to the suspects carry a potential sentence of anywhere from 9 months to 12 years of prison time.
Poultry producers from Poland have found themselves caught up in the global competition of superpowers. According to media reports, Beijing is holding up imports of Polish chicken meat to pressure Warsaw into buying more Chinese telecom equipment, while Washington would like Poland to do the opposite.
Who would have thought that Polish poultry will become a bargaining chip? According to local media reports, China is trying to coerce Poland into scrapping provisions that could result in barring Chinese telecom companies from taking part in government contracts. Getting rid of those stipulations would make companies like ZTE or Huawei more likely to win those contracts. Such provisions are part of a new cybersecurity bill which is waiting for President Karol Nawrocki's signature. China is reportedly delaying the entry of Polish poultry onto its market, something that Warsaw has been fighting for a long time. The government even signed a deal with the Chinese mid-September, but poultry transports had been held off since then, with producers pointing at the row over the cybersecurity law as the reason.
Andrej Babiš's coalition has survived a no-confidence vote in the Czech parliament. The vote was initiated by the opposition to Babiš's Eurosceptic coalition.
Here's the result of the vote of no confidence in the government. A total of 183 members of parliament voted, with 84 in favor of the motion and 99 against.
Andrej Babiš's coalition has survived the vote of no confidence initiated by the Czech opposition.
We called this meeting because in a normal democratic Western European country, a minister who threatens the president would simply resign.
This refers to a dispute between Czech President Petr Pavel and Foreign Minister Petr Mačinka. Pavel accused Mačinka of attempted blackmail over a cabinet position. Thousands of Czechs took to the streets in support of their president. But the most recent rift between pro-EU and Eurosceptic factions of the Czech government was triggered when Pavel refused to accept the appointment of a motorist MP, Filip Turek, as foreign minister, on the grounds that he had performed a Nazi salute and posted racist content on social media.
He refused to appoint him solely on the basis of his own subjective value judgment. The president should act, not select. If we refuse to accept these simple statements, then we no longer have a parliamentary democracy. We have presidential activism.
Mačinka, also a motorists member, accused the Czech opposition of attempting to violate the country's constitution.
President Petr Pavel decided to arbitrarily interfere with the government's powers, and you decided to exploit his arbitrariness politically. Today, this is not about mistrust of the government. It is an attempt to legitimize violations of the constitution and turn them into political capital, and the motorists will not assist in such efforts.
This no-confidence vote took place just 20 days after the government was confirmed by parliament, proving for a rocky start to the rule of Babiš's coalition.
The Winter Olympics officially begin Friday as members of the International Olympic Committee warn that climate change could push future games from February into January. Officials also say that new events, including cycling, could be included in future editions.
The Winter Olympics begin on Friday, as International Olympic Committee members say climate change could force future editions to move from February to January. They also note that events like cycling could potentially be included. Climate change is forcing the IOC to review all aspects of its winter sports bonanza, with natural snow becoming less plentiful in some regions, putting the global snow sports industry at risk.
This year is an exceptional one because it's very cold in Europe as well, all over Europe. And we could produce lots of artificial snow as well. And we have a lot of country. But if the increase of the temperature is going on for the future, there will be just 10 to 12 countries in the world who are able to organize Olympic Winter Games in 2050 or beyond.
There has also been discussion of the future inclusion of the increasingly popular cyclocross, involving racing with steep hills, muddy trails and obstacles.
Ice and snow are the DNA of the games, of the Winter Games, and it has to stay like this. However, it doesn't mean that you can't bring other disciplines that are, part of the look at the cross-country running. It's also in the winter, like cyclocross.
The Winter Olympics opening ceremony gets underway on Friday evening, primarily being held at Milan's iconic San Siro Stadium.
French President Emmanuel Macron has welcomed the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, to Paris. The two leaders are set to discuss European security and the war in Ukraine. Now, the French president is hosting two European officials this Thursday. Macron's other guest is European Council President Antonio Costa. The private discussions at the Élysée Palace reportedly aim to lay out the groundwork for an informal leaders' summit scheduled for February 12, which will focus on boosting EU competitiveness. The retreat, which will take place in Belgium, will offer European leaders the space to discuss long-term economic and strategic goals of the bloc. And that concludes our midday report for today. I'm Diana Skaya. Thanks for watching, and do stay with us here on TVP World for more news and exclusive interviews.